the true meaning of Christmas? What's the true meaning of Christmas?
I'm sure you're bloody sick of that question, as am I. We've been conditioned to obsess over it every single December since the first time we saw Ebenezer Scrooge transform from a callous twat to a benevolent hero in A Christmas Carol. Charles Dickens is almost single-handedly responsible for inventing the romanticized version of Christmas we've come to expect. We could even argue that he's the one to blame for the crushing disappointment we feel when the holidays don't ever turn out as planned. Instead of Tiny Tim's immortal wish that we all be blessed at Christmas, my family usually ends the night drunk on eggnog, covered in tears, and longing that they could tiptoe through the tulips straight out the front door.
Tiptoe through the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Tiny Tim, tiptoe through the tulips. See what I did there? Still though, Christmas is my favorite time of year. I feel a little more hopeful as we take that turn straight out of Thanksgiving, stumble through Black Friday, and join Kris Kringle on a hectic sleigh ride straight towards Jesus' B-Day. This year was extra special though. I was living in London, probably the only place that loves a good secularized, commercialized, sensationalized Christmas more than America. I was living on Dean Street in the Soho neighborhood, 2 blocks away from the shopping mecca that is Oxford Street. It seemed like the Christmas rush consumed Oxford Street even before Halloween. Its entire length was decorated with intricate light arrangements that dormantly hovered over one of London's main strips until a celebratory lighting took place in early December. The premature ornamentation is a little more understandable when you consider that Halloween is not as big in the UK, and Thanksgiving, if it's on anyone's radar at all, is more or less a novelty for their American friends. The excitement there about Christmas begins almost as soon as the autumnal equinox hits. You can practically feel the ghost of Christmas past bum rush you into holiday merriment. Nothing like a good bum rushing to start the holiday season. By Black Friday, yes, Black Friday has made its way to the UK, but there are a lot fewer tramplings for the precious Tickle Me Elmo-like characters. By Black Friday, Oxford Street is a mob of hungry shoppers craving bargain buffets. I've never experienced claustrophobia until walking from Tottenham Court Station to Oxford Circus Station on a Saturday afternoon. The mass of people trapped me shoulder to shoulder for about a mile, turning the normally brisk 10-minute walk into a walk as impossible as breaking out of a giant rock-hard fruitcake.
And a happy New Year.
But I kept my cool, and I had to smile the entire time. After all, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. You see, I was in London on fellowship with the Condé Nast Corporation to study fashion media, marketing, and retail business practices. So, swimming through Oxford Street was an anthropological research adventure. Moreover, in the society of spectacle that birthed our modern fantasy of Christmas, so far away from a little manger and a tiny baby, I was forced to try and find a deeper level of meaning. Who were we beyond the elaborately merchandised store windows, impeccably styled mannequins, and desire for status symbols? As part of this introspective journey, I spent long days and nights working with brilliant creative collaborators. These were the kind of inspiring people that made you want to push your own limits, while at the same time finding layers of compassion that you didn't know existed inside yourself. Our energies fed one another, constantly in an intense cycle of philosophical debates and artistic challenges. We brought different world perspectives from the US, England, Australia, Tunisia, India, Switzerland, New Zealand, Greece, and Uzbekistan into a thriving intellectual landscape of humility. Each one of us was eager to learn from one another, almost as much as from the fashion and publishing industry professionals that mentored us. But the most gratifying part of the experience was the trust building. Out of 18 members of my cohort, only 2 grew up in London, so we were all outsiders. We were all immigrants. During a historical moment when conservative sentiments like Trumpism and Brexit are targeting difference, we encouraged one another to grow. Through this process, I found myself scrutinizing my relationship to my country in new ways. I've spent my entire life trying to understand what it means to be American, and what my role should be in that. I have a great passion for my home. Sometimes, though, you need to leave something you love to grasp the depth of your passion for it. To paraphrase Tom Waits, I never saw my home country till I stayed away too long. I never heard the melody till I needed a song.
Never saw the morning till I stayed up all night. Never saw the sunshine till you turned out the light. I never saw my hometown until I stayed away too long. I never heard the melody until I needed the song.
Growing up in the United States, we take our history for granted and often speak of it as the history. Our exceptionalist attitudes about our place in the world breed the inflated sense of value that create megalomaniacal characters like Donald Trump. But I never really understood the gravity of our position in the global community until I saw it play out in real time. Being one of only 2 Americans in our cohort, I became a default spokesperson. My team earnestly looked for answers as to why rampant gun violence tears the United States apart, and why our president seems to antagonize nuclear annihilation. I did my best to peel back my own ignorance enough for a semi-intelligent response, but it never felt enough. I always felt like a patriotic Bob Cratchit mourning his nationalistic paycheck. My cohort spoke to me as if America was at the Ghost of Christmas Future's graveside precipice, staring into the abysmal death of its own innocence. I wish I could sit here and say we came up with a grand diplomatic plan to save the world. We didn't. I wish I could say that I offered enlightenment. I did what I could. What I can say for sure, though, is that there was a magic in those conversations. Emotions ran high and we let down our guards. We showed our emotional depths and surprised one another. Most of all, we realized that in all the confusion, joy, and constant searching for answers, we were not alone. On my last weekend in London, I went to the Charles Dickens Museum. Hey, come on, you didn't think I'd carry the references all the way through and not go to the guy's museum at Christmas time, did you? It was a quiet day, snowy, Saturday afternoon, and I sat in the cafe staring into a small courtyard, gazing at a memorial gravestone honoring illustrator Robert Seymour. Seymour illustrated many of Dickens' works, bringing them to life much the same way my friends in London had brought me to life. I reflected on the funny little idiosyncrasies, like the way the Brits say toilets instead of bathroom, and the Jerry Springer-like bizarreness of Jeremy Kyle. Look him up if you haven't heard of him. He'll thank me. I thought about how my fellowship experience helped me regain the precious belief that a life of art, ideas, and creativity was still possible. I thought about the friendships I made and how, in those short 3 months, I formed greater bonds with those friends than with many people I've known for over 20 years. I thought about love, how it passes, how it can be reborn in different manifestations, and how it surprises you with the gift of new romance. If New York birthed me and Los Angeles put me in intensive care, London was my salvation. As I was about to walk out the door, back into the cold December night for one last stroll under those Oxford Street lights, a quote from A Christmas Carol painted on the wall caught my eye. It read, "I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, as a good time. Kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of, in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. Well, if there is a true meaning of Christmas, I think that day I found it. I hope you do too. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.